Here are tips for improving stop torn playing in your students. Most important thing is the sound quality and the tone quality. And the way we're going to achieve that is talking about getting a really good seal in the right hand of the instrument, into the bell of the instrument. And we'll talk about ways to improve that seal and to help your students play with a better seal. An important aspect of stop torn is the sound quality and the tone quality. And there are various ways to affect the tone quality on the horn, stop torn being a very unique kind of sound, a piercing kind of sound in some context, a very pure tone, almost aggressive, abrasive kind of sound in some context. So here's the difference between the stop torn sound and an open. Here's an open sound. And then stop torn. So that's the sound quality that we're trying to achieve. Now we're going to talk about seal, and before I show you a close-up of a couple of the ideas that I want to talk about, let's just review some of those first. It's important in your hand that your hand stays in its normal hand position, so with the fingers all touching one another, and that the thumb stays on top. Oftentimes students tend to want to collapse that thumb whenever they put their hand into the instrument, so be sure that the thumb stays on top in order to produce a seal up at the top of your hand. If you collapse your thumb, there tends to be a gap that is created by that collapsed thumb. So keep your thumb on top. And as you have your hand into the instrument, when you go into the closed position, you need to think of pressing firmly all around where your hand is touching the bell in all of the different directions. So the meat of your hand as well as the side of your hand, all of the fleshiness needs to press firmly against the bottom of the bell. Your fingers and your thumb need to press out in the bell, and these fingertips need to press out against the side of the bell, inside the bell here. So when you're putting your hand into the instrument, in order to get a good seal, it's important that your hand feel firm. In order to achieve this seal, it's important to think of the hand as working as a hinge and not as a plug. And so you'll see here, this is our normal hand position in the bell. And think about the knuckles as operating as the hinge. You're going to be bending this way to close the instrument. And that'll help produce a good seal, just like that, working like a hinge. You're in your normal hand position and then closing, and again pressing firmly at all the contacts where the fingers and the palm are touching the bell. A common problem with students is to think of the hand as a plug. They'll tend to collapse their fingers and then shove it in as hard as they can to try to get a seal. And the problem with that is that there's a variable all around the bell that you don't have consistent contact all the way around the bell, so you're not getting as good enough of a seal. So this hinge idea is really important for being able to get this seal all the way around the circle part of the bell. Another way to think about getting a better seal is to visualize the bell in a different way. And so say we think about the bell here. You see where my bell comes off the instrument and the bell is cut at a cylinder. Think of this as being cut. You're cutting it at the cylinder. And your hand, when it works as a hinge, it's working parallel with this cylinder. It's closing off that cylinder in a parallel way. Now if you think about the bell being cut at an angle, right here, think about the bell being divided and cut this way instead of being cut clearly this way, then my hand, instead of working like a hinge this way, it's working more at an angle like this. And this can help especially with younger students with small hands playing in bell throats that are quite big. It's good whenever you have a lot of space in the bell to think about putting your hand in its normal hand position and closing it at an angle can help you with a better seal. Now the final aspect of stop torn that I want to discuss is to be sure that you're blowing into the instrument with a lot of air, a lot different than how you would blow when you're not stopped, whenever the horn is open. For example, say I'm playing a G in the staff at a mezzo piano dynamic. In order to play that same note stopped, I need to think about playing at least a mezzo forte, if not a forte. That's the dynamic that I'm blowing into the instrument in order to produce that same open note sound. You have to blow blow harder into the instrument in order to produce the same kind of sound. So I hope some of these techniques will help you in creating a better seal for horn playing and blowing harder into the instrument. These can help your students with stopped horn playing.